There's so many different ways that a criminal or a person with bad intent can target and can compromise a person using technology. It's difficult to try and establish who the person is behind the computer.
She was an interesting mixture of experience and youth.
She is just unique in the true sense of the word.
We all thought at that point she's going to come out of it and everything will be fine. But obviously that was not the case.
People sometimes don't realize just how dangerous it can be.
We were shocked, and I think we're still today shocked. We still need answers. We need closure on this whole tragedy.
And we always knew that maybe she will go into the drama field, even TV. I always had that feeling that that is where Roslyn might end up one day. There's Roslyn. She was already a prefect in grade 11. It also shows her leadership ability, that she was already a leader in her grade 11 year.
Yeah, she had a passion for the nature, she had a passion for sports, she had passion for drama, she had passion just to sing. She tried everything, and what she tried, she was the best.
She decided in her matric year that she would like to study drama. And of course my husband was very, very much against it. He wanted her to be a teacher or something like that, you know. But there was no stopping her.
I always thought Roz was the most highly intelligent person I've ever come across. Studying drama, you've got long days because there's a lot of practicals, and yet she would still find time to come home and quickly study and then sort of almost ace all her tests. And you knew if you were going out with her, you were going to have fun. She just loved the theatre, and I think that's also because it's her passion. She didn't mind, you know, when she went full-blown into it, to do literally 24-hour days. Our first job was at the theatre on the Bay, because she did more the technical side, so she was a lighting manager working in the technical box.
I met Roz the very first day she joined the Baxter Theatre Centre. I thought she was fun. She was an interesting mixture of experience and youth. And she wanted to make a good impression. She wanted to do a great job. And all she really wanted to do was learn the ropes.
Roz was the person who made all things work in the Baxter. She was a consummate organizer, and she was a people person. Since Roz has moved on, I think there are 3 or 4 people doing what Roz used to do here.
The Theatre Benevolent Fund is a very active committee of people who have the best interests of people who are down and out at heart, thespians who've fallen on hard times. And Roz was just the perfect person to be on that committee. She's extremely compassionate. She knew who they were. Well, she would go and visit the beneficiaries and make sure they were okay. There was one person who sometimes needed help bathing, that sort of thing. She would help bath and help with sanitation and very basic needs. And she was always there for her people.
It was 2009, the end of 2009, that she finished at the Baxter. And I think definitely to the end, I remember her saying a few times that she feels she needs to move on, make a change.
I first realised that she was wanting to leave because she had been there for a great many years and she wanted to move on. She was looking for a job that paid a little better as well. But she often mentioned it. I didn't actually think she was ever going to do it.
I think she also felt maybe a little bit burnt out emotionally. So it was probably gradual, but then I think to the end it was a little bit, maybe it was more abrupt than I would have expected it to be. I think initially when she stopped working there, she probably enjoyed the little bit of freedom she had. But then I think the novelty wore off quite soon. And obviously she applied for jobs in the theatre industry, and especially with her qualifications and what she's been doing, it's not always easy to find a job. As time went on, she started struggling more and more.
I gather it was difficult, you know. She never said how worried she was, but I know that she used to say that she'd applied for many jobs, you know, many different theatre jobs, as it were, and everyone would say that she was too highly qualified.
Yes, hello, Rose speaking? Yeah. Overqualified.
Her emotional state was definitely on a downward spiral. She would have good days, some days where she phoned you and like, let's do something. And then other days where, you know, you can just hear she's really struggling. Unfortunate thing about Roz was because she was so used to giving, she really found it hard to receive.
She phoned me on the Sunday, and she said that she'd answered a Gumtree advertisement. I didn't even know what a Gumtree advertisement was.
So I was quite shocked in the sense that she went for something like that. Then he tells me that, why did she go there? Maybe she needed money to go because she was now without the work.
At that point in her life, she was, you know, looking after people's dogs when they were away, working at a video shop, literally doing anything and everything to, you know, just bring in some money.
Every country's got their own definitions, but I think the simple way of looking at cybercrime is really traditional crime being committed using technology. Where it maybe gets a bit grey is where traditional crime is committed using technology to maybe lure the victim. I think when you're online, you have to be extra vigilant around validating who it is you're talking to.
And she was just repeating that, yeah, she was attacked. So I couldn't get much details. I knew something about a bus and that she got knocked over the head, and she was found and she woke up in Tableview. And at that point I didn't want to ask too many questions because that wasn't the main thing to worry about. She was very ill the Tuesday. She was throwing up the whole time because she got antiretrovirals and antibacterial medication from the hospital. It was very difficult getting information, and also you don't want to pry too much because you know she must have been through a hell of a time. So, you know, you might ask a question here or there, or she might, out of her own accord. I mean, I was always just hoping she would just come and tell me eventually. But even in the beginning, I suppose, because of the medication and the trauma and maybe the knock to the head, it was very much disjointed. And then the Tuesday evening, and we were chatting a bit, and all of a sudden I just saw her her face start going blue around the lips. And so she started seizing. I managed to get her to come out of the seizure. Doctor examined her, and then he actually made arrangement with the Karl Bremer Hospital. She couldn't speak she could obviously understand everything and try to communicate, but I think probably her tongue from biting it was also making it difficult for her to get words out.
A murder and a rape case has been opened for investigation after the deceased 38-year-old Roslyn van der Vyver died yesterday. It is being alleged that the deceased reacted on an advertisement on a social network and later ended up unconscious, where she contacted a friend and he took her to a nearby hospital for treatment. We are waiting on the post-mortem results to determine the cause of death.
I really prayed that the Lord would release her, because her with brain damage, and she, you know, being an invalid, having known that, you know, the person that she'd been, it would have been very, very difficult. The photos are there, but I try not to look at them, but now and again I do look at them, and you know, really I still wonder why.
Any criminal act, and particularly one as horrifying as this, that comes as a consequence of an engagement through Gumtree is one too many. Our response at the time was to take down all ads that related to the same listing, which was around stock taking. So all of those ads were immediately taken down, and our moderators were alerted to this potential issue, and we increased the number of manual moderation. We don't moderate every single ad. It's a randomized system of moderation, and we increase that moderation in particular categories where there have been issues. And then our client services team, who have access to the full back end of our system, were able to supply directly to the SAPS agent in charge of the case all of the information that we had relating both to the person who posted the ad, as well as, for example, the responses to the ad, the replies to the ad, where those came from, and the details that we had on our system of those people.
When a crime is committed using technology, you would need to piece together the digital evidence. So what people may not realize is that there is a lot of evidence that is left behind at the scene of a crime. especially if technology has been used, whether it was your mobile phone, whether it was your computer. Even if you think you're able to delete the information, oftentimes you're not able to delete the information. So forensic experts can actually piece together and go back into over long periods of time and build a profile of exactly what has happened. And oftentimes criminals are implicated just by having a mobile phone with them at the scene of a crime.
The critical piece of information that we were able to supply on the actual person who posted the ad was their IP address.
Every device connected in cyberspace would have an IP address. And don't just think about computers, don't just even think about mobile phones, but the Internet of Things nowadays, even your car is going to have an IP address. So number one, we're talking about billions of devices out there. So to try and now go back and trace that to a person is very, very difficult to do, because that person could have been sitting in a normal internet cafe or a publicly available place, and to try and get to that exact place and identify who was there at that time is very difficult to do.
One must also be very careful not to think of it in terms of the CSI program on television. You cannot use all of those forensic evidence left at the crime scene and analyze it and solve the crime and catch your guy within 60 minutes, advertisements included. It unfortunately doesn't work that way. There has been cases, for example, fraud cases where digital evidence and electronic evidence with regard to emails and computer systems has proved very valuable also in prosecution of cases in South Africa. With regard to posting an advertisement on a site like Gumtree or any other site that you can think of, one would have to ask the regulatory body responsible for that site, what type of mechanisms do they have in place to protect their clients? Or is it really a site where there's no regulation and people are allowed to post things and advertise things, and they do that all at their own risk?
There are no specific requirements around determining proof of a position or of an employer in the jobs category, but certainly we always recommend that users verify any information that's posted in an ad. But there's ongoing development around the filtering systems because we're part of a global platform. The filtering system is constantly being updated and revised, and that also protects against cybercrime.
If you find DNA evidence at a crime scene, like in this case where it was allegedly some semen was found, then you can extract the DNA profiles from those biological samples, and if you don't have any suspect in the case, you can do a comparative search on your DNA databases and you can see if there are any hits. Just finding DNA evidence at the crime scene is not going to help us. We must have another sample that we can compare it to in order to come to a conclusion that the DNA profiles of the sample found at the crime scene and that of the suspect or the accused is similar. If there are hits, you must remember DNA evidence is still only circumstantial evidence, but it's going to provide you with valuable clues and leads that you can then follow up on, find the accused or suspects still and have interviews with them, follow up on leads, and maybe in the end you will be able to identify the perpetrators and take the case to court.
At first, I always thought that she did lay a case with the police, but then it obviously surfaced that that was not the case. And it was only through Gillian Linda, one of her friends, that she managed to sort of get the police to open a case for Roz. They never managed to speak to Roz when she was still able to communicate. And they also had an interview with us all together so that we could put the pieces together of what we all knew or understood of what happened. They obviously took her cell phone, managed to go into her emails, etc. And I think it was somewhere in 2012 that two detectives came and saw me just to say they actually have exhausted any leads that they might have had.
Of those cases that are reported to the police, probably about that many are investigated from a cybercrime point of view. Unfortunately, our police force, whilst there are really good people working in the police and devoted, they just don't have the resources to investigate everything that is out there. From those that are actually investigated, probably 1 to 5% of those cases may end up in court, and then those are prosecuted. So it's not a pretty picture that we're trying to deal with, and our country is trying very, very hard at this stage to increase capacity, to train up more people, and to really make our force a lot more effective.
Till today, we're still wondering when will these people be in court, because I would actually love to see them and ask them why, just why. We need closure on this whole tragedy. We need closure.
From a legal point of view, what I can say, for a case like we're discussing today, where murder is the charge, there's no prescription period for murder in South Africa. So even if we catch you 20 years after you committed that murder, you can still be prosecuted. There's no period of prescription.
That smile of hers keep on poking its head out in my head every now and then. And that's how I want to remember her anyway. Someone who's joyful, who's got a lust for life, who's passionate. We must rather just rejoice that we all had an honour and a privilege to have her touch our lives.
We just miss her very much, which is why we still commemorate her birthday and her death day, in fact. We often get together, that's why I'm wearing red now. We have Rosy Red Days, where she used to love wearing red lipstick and red things. And we get together at least twice a year in memory of Roz. And we talk about the good times. And there were many.
I can just say she was an angel. If you knew her, you would have been privileged. I was privileged that I knew her.
She was just such a beautiful person who had the world at her feet, and then it just shows you that you can lose everything in a beat of a heart.